Go.
So, 1962, February 17th, 1962. I get up on a Saturday morning. I get up on a Saturday morning, I'm 12 years old. They moved me to Harrison in 1960 and I didn't want to go because I was an East Snorker. I was a snorker. So all my friends were in East Snork, so my mother was sick. Sick in what way? Nobody ever knew. The doctor used to come to the house, give her a shot. She had high blood pressure. I think she was depressed. I think she might have had a heart condition.
The death notice says congestive heart failure.
Okay, congestive heart failure was the death
I
notice.
just found that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can
So, but she might have had a heart condition. The doctor used to come to the house. In those days,
When they used
nobody
to
asked
come.
questions. You just knew Mommy didn't feel good. So every day I had to come home from school. And Flo used to tease me. She'd say, Anna, because my mother would call Anna. And I'd go do my homework in the bed with her. And she was really sick. Like 7 kids later and a lot of ups and downs, you know what I mean? She had anxiety. She had agoraphobia, which if anybody in the outside world doesn't know what it is, it's, if you look in the dictionary, it's fear of the open marketplace. Meaning, you can't go out in the outside world. The most she ever did was go to Dr.
Carrie.
Carey on 2nd Street. She'd walk up there to 1.5 blocks, get a shot for her blood pressure, come back. She had bad menopause. She used to pass out and everything. She was, you know, she had a hysterectomy at 42. She had me at 42. She had a hysterectomy at
4 years, 4 weeks out of high school, I had to stay home and
So
make
she had,
you
she had, yeah, help me.
She didn't want to do anything. My
Yeah,
mother
Mommy
would
used to say, hold
"Help
the
me,
pan.
help me pick up this dirt
Because she
bin."
can't bend over or do anything. But I was a brat because
She
I was
would say,
spoiled.
"No, I'm not
Yeah.
doing it."
Oh, Carol helped her. Don't worry, Carol helped her. So, anyway, she was really sick and always in bed. And like the doctor would say, Mrs. Donnelly, I heard this at 11 years old, it's registered. Mrs. Donnelly, you have to get out of bed. You can't stay in bed, you know. And it was just one thing after another. So this Saturday morning, on the weekend, Flo would be home, Eddie was home, Huey was home. Like, if people were home, I'd jump on my bike and ride to East Newark to my friends. So I said, Flo, could I go to Patty Grotchek's? And she said, yeah, go, you know. So I said, you're going to stay with Mommy, right? She said, what am I going to do? You go. So I got on my bike. I rode to Patty Grotchek's. I loved it there. This is why I like Italian people. Mrs. Grotchek, her last name was Bruno, and she always made a pot of spaghetti like this. I didn't know what spaghetti was. We had specioles, we had German stuff, we had pot roast on Sunday with potatoes and carrots. I never had Italian food. Franco-American spaghetti. Again, that was my Italian food. It was horrible. When I got to Mrs. Grotchek's, meatballs and macaroni, and the bowl was this big. And she had cousins over and her sister over. So all the kids were playing. We were downstairs around 6 o'clock at night, and I kept saying, I have to go home. It's going to get dark, you know. And they're like, no, you could stay. They already got the phone call. They called an ambulance for Mommy. She was DOA, and they couldn't tell me. They didn't know what they were going to do with me. So stay here, stay here, stay here. So I said, well, they told me to let you stay here. You know, you could stay here. We were playing, I never forget. It was with cars. It was a game, and it was one that was real famous then. Oh, you know what it was? It was Risk. Risk.
Okay.
And it was a fun game and a long game, and I kept saying, don't I have to go home? Who's with Mommy? I was always worried about who's with Mommy. All of a sudden, the doorbell rings, and Mrs. Grotchek yells down in the basement where we were playing, Annie, you got to come upstairs. And I said, what? She said, come here. So I go to the door, and I look, and there's Huey, Flo, Eddie, Jimmy, and Daddy standing on Mrs. Grouchek's porch. Everybody's glasses are all fogged up, and they're looking at me. And they said, "Come on, we're gonna go home." And I said, "Who's with Mommy?" And they're like, "Just come on." And I said, "Who's with Mommy?" And they're like, "We gotta go. Come on, you gotta come." And I said, "What's the matter? I know something's the matter." And they said, "She died." And I said to Daddy, "You did that!" Because they were always fighting. So I automatically just said, "You did that. I know you did that." I said, "No, she's not." And they were like, "Come on, come on." So they got me out there and we got home. And like the highlight of my whole thing was that Bobby and Peggy were coming up right away. And I always, when Bobby was around, there was calmness. But I'm going to go to Carol because she happened to be coming up from South Amboy when the ambulance pulled up.
No, we were at what's that amusement park?
Birch's Island.
No, on 22.
Boatcraft.
Boatcraft
Yes.
with the kids. And you weren't here. Just
Not
Richie.
1962.
Yeah, Richie and Roy sitting in the back. We're coming up 4th Street. We stop at a light and there's an ambulance right in front of the house. And I look over and they open up the door and my mother's coming out on a stretcher. So we're at a red light, mind you. I said to Roy, "Daddy," I said, "Oh my God, that's my mother." So I opened the door. It wasn't moving. We were parked. I open the door, I jump out, I run around the front of the car to get to the sidewalk because I thought I'm going with her. And a car, the light had turned green, and a car was coming flying down. He just missed me. He just missed me. Roy almost had a heart attack. He said, "Karen, he almost got you. You were right there." And I ran. And Aunt Sally was getting in the ambulance, and they said, "You stay here with you," were there, and Flo. And Aunt Sally went with her, and they said later that she had been
Dead on arrival.
Dead on arrival.
So she passed away in the home.
In the house, yeah. And I knew that from that moment on. I hated going in that room. I hated being by myself. And that's why he used to ship me off to Bobby and Peggy's all the time.
Pause.